The West calls Taliban engagement a moral compromise, yet we have examples. The United States still trades with Saudi Arabia and China. I mean, this is hypocrisy, certainly not hard realism, and India hasn't recognized the Taliban yet. So, do you see London, Washington, Brussels following India's pragmatic path if they see that the results actually do show stability?
Absolutely. I think, the double standards and the hypocrisy, the West is well exposed, with what happened in Syria and how they basically recognized a complete barbarian and made him sort of into a head of state, a puppet head of state. Goes to demonstrate their hypocrisy right there. So I don't think they stand on very solid moral grounds as such. From an internal perspective, from an India perspective, yes, there will be international backlash. There will be the odd Reuters reports and the New York Times basically decrying about, how India is, ignoring all the human rights violations. From a domestic perspective, we are already seeing a lot of hue and cry about, recognizing or legitimizing Taliban, which is perceived as anti-women. But if that was the whole stance, then questions must be raised about India's long-standing relations with even Iran. I mean, we've had strong relations with Iran right after the revolutions of the 1970s. So how do you justify that? So from India perspective, people have to realize that it's our interests over giving legitimacy to any foreign government.
Yep.
It's your geopolitical interest which trumps in this case.
Adit, do you think
India is?
Do you think the global powers are quietly accepting Taliban's permanence, but then publicly maintaining that moral distance? Of course, the litmus test is on.
I mean, 2021, when the US basically left Afghanistan in the scurry that they did, I think that in itself demonstrated that they had recognized Taliban's hegemony in Afghanistan. And, the way they left, leaving all of their resources and their weapons and their Hummers and their Humvees, it basically demonstrated that, they did recognize Taliban's existence. So they are dealing quietly with the Taliban. This Bagram airbase, everything coming into the foray now with, Donald Trump wanting to sort of exert pressure via Pakistan into Afghanistan. I don't think it's going to play out very well because, how are you going to go into Bagram? Either you put boots down, which I think is going to be a complete political suicide and, suicide in many other ways, or you do a surgical strike via Pakistan, which is not going to hold very long because ultimately there are more. Pakistan has lots more to lose as a consequence, in doing any surgical strikes in Afghanistan. You've got to bear in mind, with the Afghan population living in Pakistan,